Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, bring to you nerd news that has happened over the past week since our last show last Tuesday. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I am first-person shooter on Facebook and Instagram as a cosplay photographer. I am Burley_adopter on Twitter. And I'm on Mastodon, and if it ever comes back and they've solved their security issues, I'll be back on Hive, I'm sure. And if you don't know what that's all about, go look it up. It was an interesting thing. So, before we get into tonight's news, as always, let me give you a little bit of a commercial for ourselves here, and that is to ask you, if you have a Twitch account, to go check us out at twitch.tv/nerdcaliber, the URL that's on your screens right now. We do stream live to Twitch, we stream live to Facebook Live, and we stream live to YouTube every week when we do these shows, and when we do occasional special editions of this or some other type of show that we go live. Love to have you join us there if you have an account. Help us build a deeper subscriber or follower base on Twitch, in keeping with what we've got with Facebook and with YouTube. So, having said that, having got that particular promotion out of the way, let's start with our first piece of news? Maybe? Certainly a rumor. So this is, of course, Keanu Reeves from the movie Johnny Mnemonic. The news, which was based on a story written by William Gibson. The news is about the book Neuromancer, which is at least 50% of what's in the movie Johnny Mnemonic. Even though it is based on that short story and the characters from that short story, the world and a lot of the things that happened to Johnny actually happened to the main character. It's been so long I can't remember his name. The main character Case in Neuromancer. So that's why I chose this image. But the news is maybe about Neuromancer. The website, the very problematic website Illuminerdi, which is one of those that is known for absolute unsubstantiated clickbait rumor articles, posted up an exclusive where they are reporting that Apple TV Plus is looking to make a series based on not just Neuromancer, but all three books in the Neuromancer series. So Neuromancer, Burning Chrome, and Mona Lisa Overdrive by William Gibson. And that Miles Teller is in the running to be the lead character, Case. Normally, I wouldn't give this, any play whatsoever from a site like this, or We Got This Covered, or a lot of others that are like this. Except on Twitter, William Gibson, the author of Neuromancer and all the other two books, retweeted somebody tweeting this article with no commentary. Didn't say yes or no, but Gibson retweeted it. That, to me, lends it a great deal more credibility than if it just popped up on my newsfeed as something from this website, Illuminerdi. And I don't know whether or not that's Gibson trying to capitalize on the success, hopefully, fingers crossed, the success of The Peripheral, his show on Amazon Prime, on Prime Video, that just wrapped up its first season. If you like really smart, well-written, well-acted, not quite cyberpunk in the normal sense, near future, and possibly further future, science fiction, watch The Peripheral. Chloe Grace Moretz is fantastic. They make some obvious changes from the book, The Peripheral, but they also keep an awful lot in it. Mainly the way the main characters interact with each other and with the technology and the science fiction elements of it. It's really, really good. and I really hope they get a second season because they kind of need one. And so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you're a fan of any kind of good quality science fiction, go watch The Peripheral. But if this is true, I guess we're gonna have to re-up our subscription to Apple TV Plus, because I would absolutely watch this. Not even depending on who's behind it. And this article here has no information whatsoever on, a production house, a director, executive producers, a team that's putting together, nothing. They even say if he agrees to Apple's offer, the actor is looking at a 1-season deal. Like, well, because the characters change, even though it's a connected story, the characters change from book to book. So, the lead characters anyway. So, duh. That's just yet another example of how a site like this makes something sound like they've got inside information, when realistically, unless the series creators were going to change it so that there is a consistent lead character from all 3 books, then yeah, of course it's a 1-season deal. Anyway, I do hope that this turns out to be true, or something like this turns out to be true. I wouldn't mind it popping up on somewhere other than Apple TV Plus. What they did with Foundation was pretty sad. I mean, you could see the money was in there and they really tried, but the showrunners who wrote that and the way they changed thematically an awful lot of what Asimov is all about was just not good. So in my mind, Apple TV Plus has a pretty bad reputation in adapting classic, and I would say Neuromancer is now a classic, even though it's written in the 80s. It's like 40 years ago, or close. A classic science fiction work. Apple TV has bungled that at least once. So if it winds up that this is sort of a true rumor, but it turns out that they're just doing it and they're shopping it around, and it lands on some other streaming, HBO Max, Netflix, what have you, yeah, I'm down, absolutely. I don't see it being a Disney Plus thing because it's not, in any canon or any world studio that Disney owns, and this isn't Star Wars content or Marvel content or anything like that. And so far, they haven't done a really interesting job, or any job for that matter, in adapting some other really big IP. They're not spending money going out and getting other people's IP. They've got their own, so they spend the money on the production sometimes. Book of Boba Fett notwithstanding. Anyway, we'll keep up with this. We'll let you know what we hear going down the road, whether or not this turns out to be true. I did another search just yesterday, and there's nothing else out there that verifies this. So again, I wouldn't have put this out there if William Gibson himself did not retweet somebody's tweet about this. So, we'll see. All right, moving on to topic number 2. And this is also, it's not really a rumor, it's just sort of, a lot of people are speculating based on this one thing. That is an image from one of the covers of the 4-issue Kingdom Come limited series, fantastic alternate world or alternate future comic book about pretty much the entire DC superhero universe, by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. And that image, a slightly different version of this, the one where the old guy standing next to Wonder Woman is much closer to Superman. And I think that's a wraparound cover for a different, it's like a variant cover, or for one of the different issues, one of the 4 issues. But it's essentially this image. And that was tweeted out by, posted to Instagram by James Gunn. And now, if you've been paying attention, whether you're following us or just reading the news in general, James Gunn and Peter Safran, his off-time producing collaborator, were named the head of DC Studios, a completely brand new and pretty independent um, filmed or broadcast, movie and TV production house under Warner Brothers Discovery. Um, and one of the first things Gunn puts out there on social media is that image and just the two words, making plans. Now, he could put out any picture of the modern Justice League from way back when to New 52 to the current version to the DC EU, animated universe, or DC AU, DC animated universe version of them. And you go, oh, this is thinking about doing some more Justice League. Or this is just a picture that has all of the superheroes in it. This picture has obviously a Superman with gray temples, Green Lantern, you can see there in the background, having to wear essentially a power armor suit, almost like a knight. That Green Lantern sword thing is like super cool. Some of the other people, I mean, Hawkman is essentially an immortal. Power Girl is, similar to Superman, ages very slowly. Wonder Woman is an immortal, a demigod. So, but those are characters from a very specific non-canon storyline. Well, semi-canon. It's an alternate future within DC. Why would he pick that if he wasn't telling us that he was working on making plans for a Kingdom Come adaptation of some sort? Bleeding Cool, one of the bigger websites about comic book stuff, their author's take on it is that he's basically just yanking our chain. Yes, he's making plans because that's what he's hired to do. Make a coherent DC universe that stretches across film, streaming, animation, and so on. That's all connected like Marvel. And that is James Gunn and Peter Safran's mandate, and so sure, they're making plans. Why that image? So there's a ton of speculation out there that he is in fact working on a Kingdom Come. Frankly, that would fit very well into what James Gunn's sensibilities about DC is, all about. And it would be a absolute, not repudiation, but a clear message that things are different. This is not going to be the Snyderverse. This is not going to be the completely wild, everybody does their own thing, the Batman, universe. It's going to be a connected universe. So, we'll see whether or not Kingdom... He has, of course, not said anything one way or the other about whether or not he's working on a Kingdom Come adaptation. By the way, if you've not read that, it is a 4-issue limited series. I'm sure you can find them all bound and hardbound, and it's one of the most amazing, absolutely outstanding storylines. As soon as I saw him... actually, I think he did post it on Twitter as well, because I remember I retweeted it or replied to him saying I'm very much looking forward to Dave Bautista as Shazam, as the Kingdom Come version of Shazam. You think about those eyebrows, and now imagine Shazam kind of not being on board with Superman's mission at this point in the future. It's one of the most evil looking, doesn't look any bit different than any other classic interpretation of Shazam. But boy, does it look spooky. Excuse me. So, so maybe James Gunn is working on a Kingdom Come adaptation. maybe James Gunn is just yanking our crank because he's James Gunn. Either way, it's very interesting. And my opinion would be that he's not going to post something like this just to get a whole bunch of people riled up and pissed off, when his mandate is to get the DC connected universe running and get the fans behind him. So, we'll see. All right, moving on to our next one. This is actual news. Finally, we're getting to real news. And the real news is that the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife has set a release date, December of 2023, or a release month anyway, and picked a director, which is going to be the writer and executive producer of the last film, of this film that you're looking at right here, Gil Kenan. Of course, this is an exclusive on Deadline and inside sources, so I guess news. I consider Deadline's inside sources to be news. Jason Reitman, who directed the previous one, as according to this, is going to be going into a writer-producer role alongside Kenan and Jason Blumenfeld. Kenan and Reitman will co-write this upcoming sequel, which doesn't have a name yet. And Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon will be coming back. It apparently is going to, the rumor, and this they state as a rumor, it is going to be moving the story to New York City and going back into the firehouse. I think this is really an interesting move. So, at first, I hadn't looked up anything about Kenan. So at first I said, all right, the writer's going to be stepping into the director's role. I'm not that, excited about that idea, except he wrote and directed Monster House, which was nominated for Best Animated Feature for both an Oscar and a Golden Globe. And he wrote the screenplay for and directed City of Ember back in 2008, which is a really interesting movie. It's a fantastic world building. I don't think it holds together quite well enough as a story. It takes way too long to get into the understanding of why the action that the main characters take is really important. You just sort of are presented that it's important. You have to accept it. But that said, it's a really well-crafted movie, just pacing issues and so on. So this guy's got some stuff under his belt already. So I'm looking forward to that. City of Ember was a very interesting movie, and in ways I can see his influence, or City of Ember's influence on Ghostbusters Afterlife. They both involve teenagers who are tasked with a very, very important, potentially world-saving mission and so on. City of Ember has way less comedy, but Ghostbusters Afterlife did the comedy pretty well too. It's not Ghostbusters, but then again, what is? Apparently Ghostbusters Afterlife did well enough that Sony signed Reitman and Kenan to an overall producing deal with Sony Pictures pretty shortly after the movie came out. So yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel has a director and writers, and apparently will be coming out December 2023. Filming to start early 2023, apparently. So look forward to that. I am, as well as anybody out there. And by the way, anybody who's watching, if you're watching live, feel free to comment on any of the stuff that we're talking about. We do respond live on the show to your comments because we do like to see them and hear them. Weigh in on your opinion on the topics themselves or my opinion of those topics. speaking of the topics, it's time to move to our next bit of actual news. Um, and that is right there, of course, Peter Dinklage. This is Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask from Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie. But the news here is that Dinklage is one of the latest round of people to be cast in the upcoming Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie. He will be the voice of Scourge. Lisa Koshy is the voice of Arcee. And if you haven't seen the trailer, their interpretation of Arcee is awesome. And John DiMaggio, of all people, is the voice of Stratosphere. They have previously named, and they also have a bunch of other people of various fame that I am not particularly familiar with as different characters. So we also know that Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback will be human leads. Michelle Yeoh is Razor. Peter Davidson is Mirage. Cullen is coming back. Peter Cullen is coming back as Optimus Prime, of course. And Ron Perlman is Optimus Primal. So that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Movie is going to be directed by somebody named Stephen Caple Jr. So it's not going to be made by Travis Knight, who directed Bumblebee, but it is absolutely clearly inspired by, as from a production standpoint, by Bumblebee. They are big blocks of metal that transform. They are not nano beings that shift and blur and blend in tiny little pieces like the Michael Bay versions. Now, where this takes place in the continuation of the franchise, I think it's right after Bumblebee. They do show in the trailer, and check out the trailer if you're a fan. It's a pretty good trailer, really solid. They do show the trailer, in the trailer, Bumblebee transforming, and it is Bumblebee from the most recent movie with Haley Steinfeld, and it's really good. So I think that's where it's set. Of course, it introduces the Maximals, the animal Transformers, who get involved in the whole battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons. Once more, dear friends. So I think this is great. I love Dinklage in anything. Obviously, he is an amazing actor. Pretty close to the best thing about Game of Thrones, and almost anything he's ever been in. So I think that's a great addition. Now, having said that, the original Transformers series had really amazing actors, really amazing actors like Turturro in as supporting characters, and those movies still sucked hard. So, based on the fact that it seems to be taking its cues from Bumblebee and not from the previous iterations, I'm happy with this. And I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a decent adaptation. It's probably there. Here it is. June 9th, 2023, which is why we're seeing a trailer already. So, summer release. Check it out if you're a fan. I know I'm going to be looking at it. Assuming that COVID doesn't continue to spike. Holidays and winters. All right, moving on to the first. Well, I guess technically there was a trailer associated with this. So the second trailer drop in our pretty massive trailer assortment here. This is one of the first images in the trailer for the upcoming live-action anime adaptation Saint Seiya Knights of the Zodiac, which is coming out this coming year. The movie is based on a long running manga by Kurumada Masumi, called Saint Seiya. And it is the story of Seiya. He's a street orphan that has this ancient power within him called Cosmo, and he winds up getting the armor of Pegasus and gets recruited by a goddess named Sienna to join the Knights of the Zodiac Order to protect the ancient gods and goddesses. So that scene there is supposedly Athena's sanctuary as he's going into it to try to find Athena. So this is made by Stage 6 Films. It's a Sony subsidiary. It's produced by Toei Animation, which is apparently the producer. This has been turned into a long-running series of seasons or different arcs as animes of animated movies. There's a CGI kind of for kids. It's not quite chibi, but they're definitely much more of a for kids kind of look to the CGI characters version of movies that is just about to drop its most recent. So there's an awful lot of fans out there of this particular manga and anime universe. I've never seen one of them, but at probably every other anime con, I'll see somebody cosplaying as a character from Saint Seiya. So it's pretty popular. And so for those of you out there who are fans, check it out. It looks pretty good. There are a couple of moments when I get a little bit of a Dragon Ball Evolution feel to the production design or the action, and I'm kind of a little worried about that. But it definitely doesn't look nearly that bad as a whole, but again, this is based on one trailer. If you're a fan, check it out, see whether or not you like the idea of the live action that they're doing, and decide for yourself if you want to go see this, when it comes out, which again probably says more than just 2020. No, it just says 2023. So check it out, Saint Seiya fans. All right, our next trailer is from the first official trailer from the upcoming HBO series The Last of Us, and it looks absolutely amazing. Of course, you've got Pedro Pascal there as Joel. You've got Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones as Ellie, and you absolutely would not believe or would not doubt that is a bog standard American teenage girl, and not the heavily Northern English accented young girl Bannerlord of the Starks in the last couple of seasons. She was amazing in that. She is clearly really good in what we see here. Pedro Pascal is Pedro Pascal. He's going to be fantastic no matter what. Interesting to see how many seasons this goes. What with The Mandalorian also is something that he needs to do. But I'm pretty sure he can juggle both of those requirements. It looks like the game. It has the tone of the game, absolutely, for sure, but it also looks like the game. There are elements that are directly lifted from the game, almost like a frame for frame transformation. There are some that are taken from the second game. It uses this really downbeat minor key version of Aha's Take on Me. Again, pardon me. Which is used in the second game. Ellie actually plays on guitar after Joel teaches her how to play a guitar. And it looks like maybe Ellie isn't from Boston in this trailer. It starts out in Boston, it goes to Lincoln, And Nick Offerman plays I can't think of the character's name, um, but who's in the town of Lincoln, Mass, which has been fortified, to protect against the clickers, um, and or the infected. The clickers are from Bioshock. So I think, based on what somebody's pointed out, that in one of the early scenes where Joel and Ellie first seem to be getting together, um, the license plates on the cars on the streets are Washington, D.C. And I didn't grab this image. I should have. But there's, one of the images that's in this article on AV Club shows Joel, Ellie, and somebody else walking down a street that's leading towards a Capitol building that has a golden dome. So maybe they are trying to pretend that that's Boston, because Boston State House has that, except it's an absolutely flat street that's a direct line to the Capitol, and there's nothing like that around Boston State House. It's at the top of Beacon Hill, which means that every road or sidewalk or whatever is going slightly uphill or quite a bit uphill to get to it. And this angle, which looks like it's looking straight at the front of this particular state house, you'd be looking up Boston Common. You'd be where they are. They'd be in a park instead of in a street. So I don't know. There are other things that indicate that maybe this is supposed to be actually set where they get Ellie in D.C. and not in Boston. And if they make that change, who cares? Lumina says, "Hello all. I know very little about The Last of Us. Let's hope, or I hope there's more to it than horror. Way more. It is one of the most. It's not quite as dark as Cormac McCarthy's The Road, but it's really close. The survivors are as bad as the infected. It's a dark, dark story. And that may turn a lot of people off who haven't played the game or don't know anything about the game. But that needs to be put out there for anybody who thinks that this smuggler's going to rescue this girl who may be very important to the survival of humanity. Yay! Boy, does that not go the way you want it to. So yeah. But it is really very, very well written, the game, and I'm assuming the adaptation, certainly from the looks of it, it looks like it. They pick up Ellie's character like almost perfectly. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. January 15th on HBO, which means I'm assuming it'll be available on HBO Max as well, but I'm not sure how they parse that out. So as another subscription, I'm going to have to start up again. Darn it. That and end of December, Letterkenny comes back. It's not nerdy, so it's not on here, but it's one of the funniest shows ever created out of Canada or the United States, and that's coming back to Hulu on December 26th. So guess I have to renew my Hulu subscription too. All these darn H's. All right, moving on to our very last topic and our very last trailer. Guardians of the Galaxy, again, speaking about James Gunn, the last bit of work he is going to be doing for Marvel until he gets sick and tired of dealing with David Zaslav's bullshit at Warner Brothers Discovery. Just my prediction. But is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The first trailer for it dropped. It is absolutely amazing. It's loaded with all kinds of wonderful nods and callbacks to different aspects of the Guardians comic books, including on your screen right here. They're all in very clear versions, even if they've changed them slightly to make them more film practical. costumes from the 2008 reboot version of the Guardians. And I think that's great. It's one of the first times that they look like a team. They are the Guardians of the Galaxy. But the trailer makes it very clear, as has been said, that this also looks deeply into Rocket's past and the creation, how Rocket got created. I'm assuming this. How much does the Guardians 3 trailer give away? I have stopped watching trailers to avoid spoilers. So it doesn't give away anything that hasn't been said by Gunn and others. That this movie focuses on Rocket, and because the High Evolutionary created Rocket in the comic books, the High Evolutionary is a primary character. He is the villain in this. Played by Chukwudi Iwuji, who was also in James Gunn's Peacemaker. Very important role in Peacemaker. It introduces Adam Warlock, in which we know Will Poulter is playing that, and we get to see Adam, a really good both, close-up shot or chest-up shot of Poulter as Adam Warlock, but then also a few action scenes where he does, get to throw a few punches around. And it implies an awful lot about this is his last movie, and he's made it very, very clear that this is the end of this iteration of the Guardians. And a lot of people are taking that to mean that, at least one, maybe a few people will die. We know all their contracts are up. So, no. We also know that the Guardians is a very popular franchise now that the movies have taken off, and there are plenty of iterations of the Guardians, and they may move forward with a different iteration team at Marvel. Nothing in the next in Phase 5 or 6 indicates that there's going to be any further Guardians content. And whether or not they appear or a version of them appear in the upcoming Avengers, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, who knows? So, it's not going to hurt you to not see it. There's nothing that's shown in the trailer that you'll need to see the movie itself. So if you don't want to have even, the possibility of something spoiled, then don't watch the trailer. It's a really good trailer, as are all the trailers, that James Gunn makes for his stuff. And it definitely both adds to the hype and the concern about who gets out of this. But you're going to see Will Poulter as Adam Warlock in the movie. You're going to see Iwuji as the High Evolutionary in the movie. So you don't need to see them. There's a couple of other sort of Easter egg reveals where you look at it's like, oh, that might be that character from the comics. If you don't know those people, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I would say go ahead, feel free to avoid it if you don't want. And because of that, I won't say any of those or talk about any of those people or characters who do sort of show up in the background, or not the background, I mean actually fairly prominently, but very quickly. And you go, oh, that character's in here, so this is going to happen. If you have seen the holiday special, then you know that Cosmo the dog is on the team now. And being voiced by Maria Bakalova from the last Borat movie. And that's wonderful. That's a great addition. Cosmo was a fantastic character in the comics. So yeah. So I won't talk about those reveals, and because those would be spoilers, although you don't know to what extent these characters that we see suddenly, oh yeah, there's that person in the trailer, is involved in the actual movie. It might be nothing much more than just, oh, look, there's that person and they are part of this scene and then that's it. I doubt it very much based on who those characters are in the comics. But so yeah, so feel free to skip it, and again, I won't talk about it. If you do want to watch it, it is an amazing trailer, and it will get you really hyped and really concerned. And I am very much looking forward to the movie itself, May 5th, 2023. So we're coming up in basically 6 months, a little more than 6 months. This is just another little number they threw in here, that the two movies, the first movie and the second movie, collectively grossed more than $1.6 billion worldwide. So, cool. Oh, and one wonderful little thing. So if you have seen Peacemaker, I won't tell you, there is an interesting end, sort of mid-credit scene in the series Peacemaker, which Gunn decided he wanted to do while he was filming Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So he asked Marvel, probably directly Feige, said, look, can I bring some people onto our green screen set and film a little bit that's going to go at the end of Peacemaker? And Feige went, yeah, absolutely, sure. It's DC characters. Oh yeah, who cares? Go ahead. So when he realized that he wanted Iwuji for the role of the High Evolutionary, he was filming Peacemaker, and he called his Warner Brothers bosses and said, hey, can I film a screen test of Chukuri Iwuji here using your green screens and your cameras and so on? And the Warner Brothers guys went, yeah, okay, sure. And he said, it's for a Marvel movie. And, yep, nope, I don't care. So that's a wonderful example of the kind of person James Gunn is and what he can get done. The fact that he literally filmed DC people on a Marvel set and Marvel people on a DC set just because he's James Gunn, that's fantastic. And again, just one of the many reasons why I'm looking forward to this, even though I was a little disappointed with the holiday special, I'm not going to lie. The first two acts were not the best. The third act was wonderful. It's hilarious. Karen Gillan in like 3 different one-line bits just had me slapping my desk. It was so funny. Just perfect delivery. And everybody else really stepped up the game. Kevin Bacon is just wonderful in every scene. But it takes a while. It takes basically 2 acts to get to what I thought was James Gunn level. And that's too bad. But then again, he was trying to work within a 44-minute structure and tell a really funny and interesting story. And ultimately it pays off. It's tough to get through some of the earlier stuff. But that is not Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It looks really good. If you don't mind the idea of some of the stuff being spoiled for you, and you're really curious about the whole High Evolutionary comic line and the Adam Warlock line and all this sort of stuff, there's some really excellent things that get revealed in the trailer where you go, oh, these people must be from that thing. That I get it. Luminous, yes, I was hoping for more from the holiday special, but it has some nice moments. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think all of those moments were heavily loaded towards the back end, the last third, the third act. But yeah, that's a good description of it. On that, with Luminous dropping the accuracy bombs about the holiday special, we're going to wrap this up, folks. We're going to call it a night. We're going to do so by asking you, if you would like to go check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. That URL is on your screen right now. We'd love to have you support us if you want to, if that's the kind of thing that you can afford to and would like to do. We have just 3 tiers. Our lowest one is just $2 a month. Basically, for 1/3 the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help support us generate new content. Go to cons, get new videos, new photos for the website, so on. So please do check it out and join if you can and would like to. We will see you at an upcoming show. I think I mentioned this. We did just have people at this last weekend at PAX Unplugged, so there will be content coming from PAX Unplugged, probably mostly on YouTube. I don't think we had a photographer there, although there was cosplay there. And our next con is, I believe, Aresia, which is right here in Boston in mid-January. Then, of course, CatsCon in February, and just, things start rolling from that point on. So we will see you at one of those upcoming cons. As I said before, COVID is spiking. We've got that RSV. I said RSA. That is a internet security firm. It is RSV. And, of course, the flu. Wear a mask when you're outside. I did not this past weekend when I was at a memorial service. So far, knock wood, feeling great. This is the 3rd day, so, fingers crossed. Might wind up taking a test anyway, just to be sure, in a couple of days. But Los Angeles is this close to having to re-implement all their COVID lockdowns because COVID is spiking so fast there. Just do the smart thing, folks. When you're out in a crowd, and that means cons, wear a mask. If you want to risk it and the con is okay with it, take the mask off for photos or video or whatever, but maintain the distance, and then put that sucker right back on. So please stay safe is what I'm saying. If the holidays are coming up, nobody wants to be sick during the holidays. Nobody wants a loved one to be sick or at risk of losing their life during the holidays. So we'll see you at an upcoming show next week or at an upcoming con. Thank you all. Thank you, Luminous, for the wonderful comments in the chat. Good night and bye-bye.